Over here.
There's been some success, and I was hoping you could elaborate on those countries that are signing memorandums of understanding. But I wanted to know if you could provide us sort of with a schedule of who's on deck and who's coming next. Thank you.
As you know, probably we signed a memorandum of understanding with the Czech Republic a few weeks ago, and then I was in Estonia and Latvia signing agreements on Wednesday. I mean, it's a little hard to remember what day it is. We've been moving around so much. And I believe we have 3 or 4 other countries that are going to be signing this coming week. I don't want to, until something is signed, I don't want to announce it. But I envision that we will have a number of countries that will be stepping forward to become eligible. Now, as you know, the agreement is not the end of the discussion. There are some things we have to do. We're on track to build our electronic system of travel authorization, which should be in place and up and running by this fall. Each of the countries has to meet certain requirements in terms of visa overstays. One of the things we're going to have to do is get our U.S. air exit system up and running. And we can do that. We have the money to do it. We have the plan to do it. I will tell you candidly, the airlines are a little resistant because they see anything that requires you to stop and do something as an interference with their business model, although I would make the case that their business will be enhanced if there's more travel. So I think we are in a better position now than ever before, and I believe it's quite possible we could have our first new visa waiver travelers entering the United States before the end of this calendar year.
Okay, next question, Larry.
How fast and how much do you think technological solutions, registered traveller programs, risk-based assessments on cargo can come in to restore the balance of freedom, if you want? And where would you see us in, say, 5 years' time?
I actually believe in risk-based assessments. And what's interesting is, there's an old expression about some people see the glass half full, some see it half empty. I tend to think we're kind of right in the middle in our philosophy. Sometimes, frankly, if I'm in a business group, I hear mostly about how there's too much security. But I will be honest with you, when I go to Congress, I'm hearing, why don't we have more regulations in place? So let me lay out very clearly what our philosophy is. And I think we're actually pretty close to being there, although not in every respect. I think we ought to be risk-based. I mean, take the issue of containers and trade. Early on in my tenure, I heard people say, why don't you physically inspect every container? It's scandalous that only 4% of containers coming in the U.S. are opened and inspected. Now, most people here probably realize that if we inspected every container, there would not be ports left in the United States because no one would send containers there. This is a very hard argument to make publicly, because the 4% number really stuck in people's mind. And then you start to see it on editorials, you start to see it in radio shows. So we have not succumbed to that. We do use a risk-managed approach. And whenever we put a new measure in, like scanning, for example, or what we do at the airport, we try very hard to measure the impact it has on flow and to make sure we don't have a negative impact on flow. It may surprise you to learn that we monitor carefully the flow through the airport, how long it takes, how long the lines are, the flow at the border. So I think we do actually, and we've not lost sight of risk. And at the same time, we try to keep balance in the middle. But I will tell you we have one challenge. Some of the things that would allow us to do the best job of managing risk and be least likely to interfere with people tend to get a negative reaction because some individuals have a kind of ideological opposition to it. And a perfect example, for example, are things like PNR data, secure documentation, for example, our secure documentation requirement at the land border. Some people would say that's an invasion of privacy. It's an invasion of privacy to ask people their name and their passport number before they come into the U.S. It's an invasion of privacy to require a secure document when you come in the U.S. But I actually think that's a misconception. I think that when you have secure documents and a little bit of information, it allows you to do exactly what you suggested, focus on the few individuals who present a higher risk, as opposed to stopping everybody. Because basically there's only 3 choices. You can either let everybody in without checking, and that's pretty much a recipe for a disaster. You can stop everybody and ask them the same questions and search everybody's bags, and that's going to be a nightmare from the standpoint of trader travel. Or you can use information to make intelligently based decisions, which is what we try to do. But to do that, we must beat back those people who argue that anytime we collect a little information or anytime we place a document requirement, a secure document requirement in the law, it is somehow the end of civil liberties. We need to engage that and to make the point that it actually enhances civil liberties. I actually think, here's my bottom line where we're going to be, I think the public gets this. Sometimes the talking heads don't get it, sometimes the editorial pages don't get it, but I think most people accept that secure documents and a little bit of personal information properly protected and held in the long run will be quicker for them, more protective of their privacy, and better for everybody's prosperity and freedom. And so I think in 5 years we're going to be more risk-based, but it's not going to happen automatically. It's going to require continued engagement.
Thank you very much, Secretary. That was terrific. Thank you. That was really great. Now, before we continue.